Hello guys, today we're going to talk about radians versus degrees. This is a concept where it starts getting abstract in math. Um, like students don't know what a radian is, why it's called a radian. But for now, we're just going to quickly try to just learn how to convert between them and understand that they are the same thing. So let's go ahead and talk about radians. Radian is another measure of degrees. So, radians are usually referred to as theta. So sometimes you'll see that symbol right there. It just means it's theta. It's just another symbol of saying x. Same thing. So don't be intimidated when you see the symbol theta instead of x. But radians just measure degrees. And later on, we're going to learn about the unit circle, which is right here. This is our unit circle. And I don't know if you can tell on this circle. Again, please don't feel overwhelmed. It's not as bad as it looks. Here we have this angle right here. And this angle is 30 degrees, as you can tell. But 30 degrees can also be written as pi over 6, which is a radian measure. Again, there's a video that I had posted to help you understand what a radian is. If you can't understand it, that's fine. Just kind of know that it's another way of measuring a degree. So here we're going to learn how to convert from 45 degrees to radian measures and from radian measures back to degrees. And we'll learn more about the unit circle later. So let's go ahead and learn the formulas. From degrees to radians, so you're going to take the degree and you're going to multiply it by pi over 180. And we're going to leave it in terms of pi. Leave in terms of pi. In other words, we're not going to use 3.14 in our math. We're just going to use pi. And radians, for the most part, are written in terms of pi. Radians are written in terms of pi. So they don't really have, they're not just whole numbers for the most part. And then from radians to degrees, we're going to take the radian and we're going to multiply it. And notice this, it's going to be the opposite, 180 divided by pi, like that. So this is how we're going to convert from degrees to radians and radians to degrees using those two formulas. And it's really not that bad. So let's go ahead and try an example. These are similar to the ones on Deltamath. It says convert the angle 7 pi over 4 radians to degrees. Notice that the radian has pi in it. Radians are written in terms of pi. So we're going to take the radian, which is 7 pi over 4. And we're going to multiply it. Which formula are we using? We're using from radians to degrees. So we're going to multiply it by 180 over pi. And to multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. So I'm going to write it like this. 7 pi times 180 divided by 4 times pi. And it's not too bad from here because we have pi in the numerator and pi in the denominator, so it cancels out. And I'm left with 7 times 180. So I'm going to use my calculator for that because I don't know that off the top of my head. 180 por 7. So that is 1260, like that. And then in the denominator, we just had 4. Now I'm going to see if that simplifies. So I'm going to do divide by 4. Let's see what it simplifies to. It does simplify to 315. So what degree is it? It's 315 degrees. Like that. All right. So that is how we converted using the formula. Remember that the pi in the numerator and the pi in the denominator would cancel out. Let's go ahead and try another one. This one's a little different, but it's on Deltamath, so I wanted to cover it with you guys. Convert the angle 4.5 radians to degrees and round to the nearest tenth. So again, we're going to take the radian, 4.5, and we're going to multiply it. The formula tells us to multiply it by 180 over pi. Notice that it's telling us to the nearest tenth. So for this one, we're going to want to use our calculator. Under the 4.5, there's technically a 1. So I'm just going to multiply straight across here. I'm going to say 180 times 4.5, like that. That gives me 810 on top. And it's 810 divided by pi, because 1 times pi is just pi. And again, I'm going to use my calculator because it wants me to round to the nearest tenth. So divided by pi. So it's 257.83. The nearest tenth is 1 decimal place. That 3 does not bump up the 8. So it's just going to be 257.8 degrees. So that would be this radians turned into degrees. So that's how you use the formula for converting radians to degrees. Now let's go ahead and try degrees to radians. Notice the symbol, that it has 60 and then the degree symbol. So the formula for turning degrees into radians is the degree times pi over 180, like this. So I'm going to multiply 60 times pi over 180. And again, we're just going to do the same thing with fractions. We're going to multiply straight across. There's a 1 under the 60 always. So that's going to give me 60 pi. Notice that I didn't do 60 times pi on this one because the problem says express your answer in simplest form. And because we're converting it to radians, we're going to leave it in terms of pi. Leave in terms of pi. It's not asking me to the nearest tenth, so I don't have to do a decimal. So we got 60 times pi, and then we got 1 times 180, which is 180. And now we need to simplify that fraction. I can divide both of those by 60. So that's pi over 3. And there's our answer. It's pi over 3 radians. Notice that this one is a radian measure now. And notice I left it in terms of pi. Okay. You can practice simplifying the fractions on a calculator if you need to. Let's go ahead and try one more before we end the lesson. Pi over 180, that's where we're going to multiply the degree by. And again, I'm going to keep it as 285 times pi. Don't multiply the pi in, divided by 180. Now this one looks a little bit harder to simplify, so I'm going to use my calculator. 285 divided by 180. Notice I'm choosing to keep the pi out of it because I don't want to multiply it into the calculator. I just want to simplify those numbers. So it gives me this decimal. I don't want a decimal, I want a fraction. That's how Deltamath asks for it. 19 over 12. So this is 19 and this is 12, and don't forget your pi. So there it is, 19 pi over 12 radians, because we converted that degree into radians. Alright guys, I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, just let me know, and have a good day. Bye bye.